Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig show. I'm reminding myself to sit back, shoulders back, as my mother used to tell me. Shoulders back. There we go. Very good, Dena. I'm going to introduce you in 1 second. The show is called the Avrum Rosensweig show, and the idea behind it, why I started it, is to pay honor to humankind. And I do that through inspirational interviews. The theory is that if we get to know each other better, if we get to understand the greatness, potential greatness within all of us, that in itself might be a wonderful road to truth. I want to know about people wherever they live, whoever they are. I do my best to stay away from evil, but that gives me a lot of possibilities because most of the world is good. So sit back, coddle your beer or whatever it is you drink, and enjoy the show because this is going to be a really good one. Let me introduce my guest, then we have a couple things, homekeeping to take care of, or housekeeping to take care of, as they say. This is my niece, Deena Levenstein Lior. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm great. I'm so excited about interviewing you.
Thanks. I'm very excited to be here.
So why am I interviewing my niece? She begged me, please, Uncle.
Oh my gosh, it was embarrassing.
I
paid you.
I know, it was an awful moment, wasn't it? The reason I'm interviewing my niece is because I love her very much. I love my family. I have a wonderful family, thank God. But mostly it's because Dena, to date, has had a fascinating life. She should live till 120, as they say in Jewish. And we are going to get into that. But suffice it to say, it's a young woman she was born in Toronto, which is where I live. She made a sojourn with her family at 11 years old to live in Israel. You can imagine, if you know 11-year-old girls, that's a really hard time to make aliyah. Aliyah is a Hebrew word for moving up or moving to Israel. And then at some point in time in her life, about 10 years later, 12 years later, she started to wonder about her life more so. She started to question her religiosity. And these questions became really key to her. And I was so impressed, Dena. I mean, I know your life. I've watched it. But when I read about it, I was just so incredibly impressed that you were conscious enough to ask some very difficult questions and then to answer them. Because I know that I was pretty unconscious, not very aware about my own life until I was about 63. I'm now
welcome to the world of awareness then.
Thank you. And I'm not entirely joking either. Then what does Dena do? She picks herself up and she goes to BC. And this is a place that she has never been before, right? So you think about those treks that, for instance, Abraham and Sarah took in the Bible. And God said, you just have to go. Lech lecha. And they went. But they had no idea where they were going. This was my dear niece, Deena Levenstein Lior. And she figured some of her shit out. She'd swear, mommy wouldn't like it. And then she came back to Israel, and she's made a life for herself. She married a beautiful guy. I don't know him. I can't say I know him, but I hear wonderful things about him. And he just looks sweet in the pictures. He's a sweet man, isn't he?
Yep. He's a good
Would you
person.
say mostly that's his essence, that he's sweet?
Oh, I mean, he's many positive things, and he is like a major positive drive in my life.
Oh.
And it was worth waiting until I was like 38 to meet him and have kids.
Is he your soulmate?
I think so. I don't know. When he proposed to me, I said I need to think about it.
Did you
And
really?
you know what he said? He gave me he's like, well, then see this ring as my sign of commitment to you.
Wow.
And then I proposed to him like 2 weeks later.
Why did you have to wait? Just because that's who you are?
Yeah. I'm very hesitant. I'm very skeptical. I'm like, scared to take major steps. And I think it's maybe it sometimes hasn't served me well, but I think to a large extent it has served me well, because I really think about something and decide that it's really what I want. I don't just, go with the wave.
Dean, if someone would have said to you, like, let's say you propose and they said to you, I need to wait, would you have stuck around?
So yes, I mean, because we had a full relationship, and it wasn't, he really was proposing more because, for me, like that he felt like that's what I needed. For him, he was, just happy that he has me in his life. So yeah, but I was so touched. We actually went on and celebrated. Like, we went and had some wine and a l'chaim, even though, like I said, maybe, and I was still excited about the ring and what.
For a potential l'chaim, right?
Yeah, it was like the first step, another step.
I like to, as you know, I'm what they call in Yiddish a kochleffel. Like, I like to mix things up, and I like to bug people. There's nothing greater in my life than bothering somebody. Is he like that, or is he just like a really sweet guy and he doesn't do stuff like that? Like, would he say to you, oh, maybe shmaybe? You know how the Israelis are.
I mean, he was so nervous. I was also so nervous. I don't even remember what he said. I didn't even see it coming. Like, I just thought that, like, I would have a less, like, surprise engagement, that we would like go and choose a ring and then like decide we're getting engaged. So it was like all thrown at me. So I was nervous, and he was nervous. So no, and he really was very sweet. And it really is one of the things that I have always liked and come to love about him, is that he's always been a no pressure person from the very, very beginning. And it's something that is, it's hard to find. I need my time, I need my space, I need to, feel it, I need to think about it, whatever it is. And he's always been a no pressure person. And he's allowed me to open up at my speed, open up at all. I couldn't open up with other guys because, there's always like at least some pressure. So, yeah.
So you're vulnerable with him?
Oh, well, I don't know. We have like 2 kids and we're getting through our day to day together. We have our moments when we can like reconnect on like, a more like relationship level.
Right. Will you cry on his shoulder?
Yeah. But
okay.
Yes, I mean, I do also just cry easily.
You do. You're a crier. Yes.
Well, by the way, can I just take this opportunity to say that, like,
your moment. Yes.
I have been really excited to come on your show because I wanted to shep nachas and like say how proud I am of you. And I'm already starting to cry because like I've been watching and listening to your show. I watch while I'm like on the elliptical machine at work, and then I listen when I'm in the car. And I'm like, it's like so proud of you. And then now suddenly I'm like sitting here and it's like, it actually is real. And you said, hi, welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig show. And I like started crying and you couldn't see because like we were showing the intro. And I was like, I'm so touched. I'm like so emotional to be here. And Avram, I am so proud of you. I like you give us, I say us because I feel like the whole family, but like, I'm so inspired. I'm so inspired by you. And like, you're just, always like thinking about like what you want to do next and how you want to do it. And you like actually put in, the effort and the time, and you put yourself on the line, to do it. And so I'm like really, really excited to be part of this major part of your journey.
Thank you, Dena. That means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. And in particular, because you're my family, my dear family. And I've known you since you entered this world. So I have deep pride and deep love for you as well. So thank you for those kind words. Mm-hmm. You know what really interests me about what you just said? I don't mean to be cold and calculating, but I'm always fascinated by what the machinations are inside of a person, inside of you, let's say, that takes you to tears in your eyes, right? I think you would agree with me that the female species cries more than the male species, right? Am I correct?
Yes, it seems so.
You cry easily, do you not?
Yes, and more than ever. Like,
you're now, crying a lot? Like,
it's out of control. It's out of control. It's something I didn't mention in my very, very long bio. It's out of control right now. Until I went on maternity leave, I was hosting at the sports center where I work, which I guess we'll talk about, the Israel Paris Sports Center. And I could host and, speak in front of a crowd, and it was fine. And after I came back from maternity leave and after October 7th,
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I like got up in front of a crowd. It was like 8th graders that had just landed in Israel. Okay, this was a few months after October 7th that their parents I think it was Chicago, had signed a form to allow them to fly to Israel. And these kids are like sitting there jet lagged and tired. And I was supposed to tell them about the Israel Power Sports Center. And like we do a lot of, we have like a lot of war
Great
effort.
stuff.
I couldn't. I actually literally couldn't. I was standing there and I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't get any words out. Finally, I just took the stage to say why I thought I was crying. And then my colleague happened to walk by and I was like, Sarah, I need you to continue. So I really am like more out of control than ever right now. It's really, it's even a little disconcerting because I want to be able to host. Yeah.
A few days ago, I felt that I crashed emotionally, and I'm watching a series on TV. It's called New Amsterdam, and I really enjoy it a lot, but it's very touching. It's about hospital scenarios. And I found myself crying at every show. And I also felt to myself, similar to you, that it is out of control because I would cry immediately and I started sobbing and it wouldn't stop. Like, do you sob or do you just tear up?
I can sob. Like if it's, like when I was standing in front of those kids, I could have actually sobbed. I was crying like really, and it could have become sobbing. And there are times, where like if I'm by myself, then I will just like let it fully out and it'll be like full on.
You feel better afterwards?
In the car, you said that you want to like analyze this. For some reason, in the car on the way to work, it is like, I don't know, like I'll like whether I'm listening to the radio or to you or to a different podcast, like I just like let it out in the car on the Ayalon in Tel Aviv. Wow, I don't know why, and people must think there's something wrong, but like I'm just like letting out these emotions. I get there, like I'm in such a good mood.
No, so honey, is it? You feel better afterwards? You find that it's therapeutic?
Well, I mean, unless it was like inappropriate, like in that case that I told you about at work. But yes,
for sure, yeah.
But
is there a therapeutic part of it?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, there must be. Like your emotions are saying to you, Dena, something inside of you. Like, is crying to you sad necessarily?
Not at all. It's emotional.
Whoa. Okay,
Not
and can
it
be
all.
a happy
It's
cry?
very emotional. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Like. When my niece Reut and Yoel, they had their engagement party. Like we had their engagement party at my parents' house. And for some reason that got me going, even more than their actual wedding. I like walked, I couldn't stop crying. I was having such nachas. Like it was it was like all of these kids. I mean, they're in like their early 20s, early mid-20s, and for some reason they're all gorgeous, the guys and the girls.
You're stunning.
I'm not even talking about like my nieces and nephews. I'm talking about like all these like all of their friends they're just all beautiful and they're all just like having fun like after October 7th. Like
after
everything that they've been to, like everything they've been through is unbelievable. So many of them are soldiers or they either were soldiers or are soldiers. Like they're IDF people. And they're building lives for themselves and then they like know how to have fun. They were dancing like crazy in the crazy heat outside in the sun. I don't even understand how they did that.
I know.
But like there was just something about it that was just so, I don't know, like it's like I think it's probably often like a juxtaposition of things that make me cry. It's like, everything that like they and we have been through in the last year.
No, I know. I hear you, honey. No, keep going. I hear you.
Like
I'm feeling the same way.
Like together with like, like someone I just saw this like from a Facebook friend, like said, I remember who was it, holding sad and happy together. And I feel like it's like the Jewish reality, like often and throughout history, but like right now it's so intense.
I love you, Dee. I love you, Dee.
Avrum.
I just love you so much. You're just,
God.
You're so special. Okay, I'm going to break things up here a little bit so someone will gather themselves.
or not.
No, or not.
Try
Ladies and
me.
gentlemen, before I really dive in further into the psyche of our dear Deena Levenstein Lior, I want to tell you that it's very important that my listeners and viewers recognize that we have to generate some sponsorship here and some donations. This costs money, and it's all. Do you remember years ago there was this preacher on
Could you hear
TV,
me
and
gulping in the middle? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. In the middle of your very important
no, I'm a
message.
big proponent of sound effects. So
I
years
should have
ago,
muted.
this minister got it, and he said, "I'm going to die unless you donate to my church." I thought, my God, that takes balls, doesn't it? Right? So I thought maybe I would do something like that. How about this? You need to subscribe and you need to donate to my show, or else I'm going to fall and scrape my knee. How's that, Dean?
Oh, don't make me cry.
No, I won't, dear. I won't. Although crying would be good. You could be my advertisement. And then, the thing is beautiful is that we do have some sponsorship, and I want to show you their logo. They're great, great people, and what they do is very cool. We're sponsored by the Professional Center, and I think you're going to like this, Dina, being an Israeli, being very creative. It's Toronto's premier co-working space at 120 Adelaide, where more is the standard. The industry leader since 1987, TPC offers private and team offices, fully equipped meeting rooms, collaborative workspaces, premium amenities, and exceptional hospitalities. You can book a day in an office or a week, however long you need. Escape work from home distractions and discover more privacy, more productivity, more community at TPC. And for more information, you can go to theprofessionalcenter.com. Now, Dean, look at their offices that they lease out.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Now, honey, this can be for a day.
Amazing.
It can be for a week.
Amazing.
And it can be for a year. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, so I have to say that I love co-working spaces. I love it. It's like you get out of the house, you see other people, even if you don't end up like hanging out with other people, you're just around other people. You can choose where to sit. You've got a little bit more people around you, less. But if you're just out of the house, it's like really important.
Yeah, thank you for that. So if you were here in Toronto and not in Israel, Akko, would you rent space? Yafo, sorry. Would you rent space from TPC?
Yes. Well, if I was still working, freelance from home, so then, yeah, I wouldn't I don't think that I could work just from home all the time.
Okay, got it. Okay, let's talk about your life. Would you say you had a good childhood?
Yes. I am very blessed. And, I've had, the things that I'm like resentful of, like I'm the middle child. I mean, I'm one of six, but for the first 16 years, for the 16 years after Yosef was born, the fifth, I was a middle child. And then Rachel was born when I was 20. So I was the middle child growing up. And I was like resentful of, not having my place exactly. Miriam and Devorah were always really, really close. And I think I was annoying to them or annoying in general. So they didn't want to play with me. And then I didn't want to be with Sippy because she's the younger one, even though in retrospect, that was a major loss. And Yosef was a little bit more younger and a boy. So it was different. So I had these, things of, and I have other things also, I was a really bad student, and I wish that my parents had gotten me help at that age, it was it was pretty much since from when we made Aliyah till I graduated. And so I have these things. I think those are them. And otherwise, and then now I've put those aside, more recently. And I think that I am I had such a wonderful childhood and, happy and stable and, learning piano and horseback riding, both things that I loved, and really just good things.
What do you think you took? What do you think you took out of your mom's character? She's a very straightforward, to the point person, and your mom and I have gotten much closer over the last few years, and We talk a lot about cooking because I love what she does in the kitchen.
Oh, I love talking to my mother about cooking.
So do
Stop
I.
it.
I do too. She's a real culinary artist, and
Yeah.
but she tells me some of the things, the interactions she has with her grandchildren, and I say to her, you can't say that. You can't say that. She goes, really? I go, yeah, just not appropriate. She goes, okay, thank you, and she listens, right?
I I really think that my mother is so wonderful. Blian Hara. She just turned 70. I think both my parents are really wonderful. And my mother, like she's just, I feel like she's like, I mean, I know that you're saying that sometimes she says things that are like, too harsh or whatever, but like, I just feel like she's always been like a positive force in my life. And, um, there for me. When I was leaving Israel and I decided I wanted to go to Vancouver, which is a crazy thing to decide, I was still religious and everything. She like helped me. She actually started doing her own networking, and she was the one that found the name of the rabbi that was the most helpful to me throughout my whole time in Vancouver. I don't know. So what what have I taken from her? I mean, and also she's just so nice to be around. Bli ein hara poo poo poo. Like, I really think that's one of the reasons I know it's one of the reasons that she's always been such an amazing hostess. She like people come in and she just makes people feel seen and cared for and interesting. She loves hearing about people. She could have a podcast.
She could. Right? That's a good synopsis. She definitely could. And your dad, also a very interesting fellow, very
I know.
humble, very modest in nature, and he loves to learn. He loves to
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah. So daddy, like, I always feel a little badly because like dad doesn't have, as clear, he he loves to talk about intellectual things. And most of us, aren't going to sit around and just talk about like intellectual things all the time. So he's a little bit, quieter when it's like all of us. When he has the opportunity, someone like, that wants to hear. So then he is like a fountain of information. But he's like, he's just this like, he's like this stable, kind, the most honest person,
He
and
is.
yeah.
He really is. I thought you like to sit around and have intellectual conversations. I mean, you and I have done that.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess sometimes, like there's only so much, especially with little
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
But like he'll give his Dvar Torah, like his, his like about the weekly portion, like at the Shabbat table or for the holiday. And and like that's nice because that's like, in like smaller bits, so he'll like share like a really like, nice idea. And then I really try to get involved with that, ask
Yes.
questions, argue, like that's fun.
In light of what you were saying about your mom's hospitality and your father's warmth and welcoming to anyone who wants to stay at their apartment, in particular, obviously the family and the kids. And this, thank God, we have a huge family. I remember after October 7th, and tell me if I'm correct here, that you and your husband your family decided that you want to come down to Jerusalem because it's central. And you did find an apartment, but until you found that apartment, am I correct? You stayed with your parents for a bit?
That is mostly correct what you're saying. So when the war started, it was very hard, like here in the center of the country. I live in Jaffa, which is like South Tel Aviv. And it's also mixed, like Jewish and Arab. And the Arab community, it's like Muslim and Christian. So so we live in this place that's, like sometimes there's like, what's the word? Like protests. Whatever. There's
Yes.
different things. Sometimes there's things here that are a little bit like not so great, but for the most part, it's nice here. It's fine. But after October 7th, so in general, there were like way more sirens here in the center of the country than in Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, there were like little to none, and here there were regularly. We couldn't really like leave go far away from our house. Like if we had to go shopping, it would we like to go shopping and come home. There wasn't any just being out and about. We would in the afternoons, every afternoon, we would go downstairs. We're talking about with a newborn baby. Zohar was 4.5 months when October 7th happened.
Your little boy, yes.
Our little boy, and Chen, our daughter, was 3.5. So we were cooped up in the house, and then every afternoon it started becoming this tradition that everyone, a ton of the neighbors, we would all convene downstairs in the courtyard, and Chen would ride her bike. We would walk around with Zohar in the carriage and just be on shvilkas, just waiting to see if there would be a siren. Always having the plan of if there's a siren, I'm crying again. I'll push the stroller, and Zohar and Ofer will Ofer, my husband, will pick up Chen and grab, and leave the bike. We always had a plan, and we would run into the building and then run downstairs to the parking, because it's two floors down, and that's not where our bomb shelter is, but it's still pretty good. So that's what we were doing. Every day we'd go downstairs for an hour, go back up. The kids were both sleeping in the safe room, which is Chen's bedroom, but Zohar, he was too little, he wasn't really supposed to be, he was sleeping with me generally. Anyways, it was really stressful. And then I said, I started feeling I just want to go to Jerusalem for a bit. My sister Tzipora was there with her family, and it was calmer there. So Tzipi actually found me a basement apartment that someone just let us use.
Remember?
Oh my God. It was okay. We were there for a week in the basement apartment, and then Tzipi went back home, to the center of the country, because her daughter's wedding was coming up, and then we went to live at my parents for a week. So yes, my parents had Tzipi and her husband and kids for 2 or 3 weeks, and then us for another week. And we were over every day. Even the week that we were staying in the basement apartment, we were over at their house the entire day.
Honey, when you go into the bomb shelter and you're there for an hour or longer or less, what is it like? What do you do in there? How are you feeling?
Okay, so thankfully we're not close enough to the front line for it to be an hour. It was only on October 7th that it went on and on. And that was a major, that was totally not normal. Mostly there's a siren, you go in, and we just had so we have a mamad in our house. Do you want me to explain about that?
Yeah,
what that means?
Please.
Okay, so we have a mamad in our house. I personally wouldn't live in an apartment without a mamad with little kids. Because otherwise, when there's a siren, you have to grab them and run out of the house and go to the, let's say, to the bomb shelter in the, underground or whatever. So for months and months and months, so the mamad, the safe room has just a big square window, and it's open during regular times. Right now it's open. And then there's this metal, this heavy metal, I don't know,
plate.
Yeah, that you pull and it bangs into place. And then there's this little thing that you close, and that's it. And the window is closed properly. By the way, I can hear when the other neighbors in the building open or close it, because it just bangs in either direction. And every time it's are we supposed to be getting the mamad ready? Is something going on? I'm a little bit calmer now. Anyway, so you close so that window is closed, which makes it pitch black. I mean, we have the lights on as long as there's electricity, which there has been. There's always been electricity for us. And then you close a very, very heavy metal door, and you go locks into place. And the way that it works is that there's a siren, and here in the Merkaz, in the center of the country, we have 1.5 minutes to get to the room. So that's plenty of time. And then we hear booms outside. And then we're supposed to wait 10 minutes. And then we leave. And that's it. And what we were doing in the beginning was that, I would even put Zohar, our baby, to sleep in the mamad, on Chen's bed, so that when there were sirens at night, we didn't have to wake them up.
Dean, how do you explain to your little one, obviously in very simple terms, what's happening and why people are bombing you?
We don't tell her that people. So it depends on the age, but when she was like, you know, 3.5, 4 in the beginning, we told her that I didn't know what to tell her. I had to find out, what do you say? All we say is we have to go into the mamad so that the soldiers can protect us.
Did that
Like,
work?
yes. I mean, she does seem like she seems a little bit, I don't know if she's frightened right now. Like, she won't go to the other side. She won't, like, our apartment's very small. It's like 65 meters. I don't know what that is in feet. It's like a 2-bedroom apartment, and it's like there's like a little hallway in between the two. She like won't go between the two sides of the apartment alone. Like, she won't go, like, if we were in the living room, she won't go to the bedrooms by herself, or vice versa. And I don't know if it's just like normal for her age. It's probably normal for her age, plus also like something, I feel like maybe it's like remnants from the beginning of the war. She seemed like she was too young to ask more questions, or maybe it's just not her way. But like, if the war like starts up on the northern border, she's now much older. She's almost 5, and like she's going to need more of an explanation, and like we're going to have to figure out like what we say at this point.
What's your sense of what you will say?
You know what? It's really hard because like right now she has this thing where she keeps on talking about the Rishaim. She's really scared of the Rishaim. She's scared of the evil people, and we don't know where she's going. We don't know exactly like what that's from. She's scared of the evil people. Now, one day, like Ofer wisely asked her, like, what do the evil people do? And because like when we think of evil people, we think of October 7th, we think of Hamas, we think of Hezbollah. But when we asked her, then we were like, wait 1 second, but we don't know what she means. She doesn't mean like the horrors, which I won't say like on your show, So what does she mean? And so we asked her, and she said like that they come in and steal things. So we were like, okay. So then we just were like, everything blocked, da 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 da, and we're there for her as much as we need to be. I don't know.
Is it hard to raise children?
I don't know what we'd say.
Is it hard to raise children in Israel?
It's probably like the hardest and easiest.
Nice one. Good answer.
I know. I feel like that's such a good answer.
No, it's a very good answer.
You know what? It really depends also where you're living in Israel at what point in time. Like,
yes.
Living in the north right now, raising children is terrible. Or if you're not, you can't even live in your house right now. It's terrible. For us right now, like, no, it's great. It's great. I mean that.
Yeah, no, I wanted to take that a little bit further. At first blush, people who know nothing about Israel, have never been there even, I think the sense would be you're living in a war zone. And living in a war zone and raising children, I'm guessing, can be an arduous task. There's a lot of explanation involved, and there's a lot of keeping them safe involved. Yet we do know in a very strange way that Israel is one of the happiest places in the world. It is.
I know.
There's a happy index, Dena, and Israel's way up there. It's phenomenal.
Can I be a party pooper?
Yeah, party poop away.
I do believe it, but I saw someone say that it's just that Israelis are too Zionistic, too patriotic to say in like an international forum that things aren't good. So like we're not as happy as we say we are internationally. I don't agree with that. I think a lot of Israelis are very fine, talking, like also saying negative things about Israel.
Right. So I tell you what I think it is, Dean. Is that when you come to Toronto, where I live, okay, across Canada, you've lived in BC, there's a lack of energy within people. There's a lack of spirit. And it's not as though people don't do anything. It's not as though they're not happy with their families and their cottages. But that effervescence, right? That explosiveness, it's not here. I find it extraordinarily hard to get inspired here in Toronto and Canada. I have to take a lot of inspiration from inside myself. When I watch what's going on in Israel and I see the dancing and I see the singing, and I know it sounds like I'm romanticizing the country, and I probably
Yes.
am. But I see what we call achdut, the unity amongst the Israelis. Even down where the Nova concert was, the museum, if you will, that's been set up there, and then people go and they insist that they're going to live life while they're there and show the best side of their soul. That's what I'm talking about. It's the soul, it's the spirit of the Israeli.
The divide in the country right now is horrible. So this unity that you might see, like it's not there. It's not there anymore right now. It's so bad. Like, it's. I just need to say that just because, like, right after October 7th and for a few months, like it was like just the most amazing feeling. Feeling like we're all in it together.
Yeah.
And then like all the old issues that are serious, came up again, and some of them more than ever because we're in like a more serious situation than ever. So that's actually, right now that's not where our happiness is coming from. And
Yeah.
a lot of people like on I turned on the radio the other day and I turned it off after 15 seconds. I was so angry at the guy. He was like, "Good morning." It was in Hebrew. "Good morning. I feel so badly when I say good morning because there's nothing good.
No.
Nothing is good." And then he said something like against people from a different political or religious standing than them and him, how like, like they're probably happy. I was so pissed. I was like disgusted, and I turned off the station. I very much live between worlds of like, secular and religious and leftist and rightist and whatever. So like I really get upset when anybody is like put down, and also I get upset when people say there's nothing good, there's nothing good. It's a lot of people say that right now, and I understand that there's some horrible things going on, like the hostages, that there's actual literal hostages in Gaza is unfathomable. And I can't say but after saying that because it's true. But like, I don't know, a few months ago, I was like talking to my best friend, Orly. and I was like so upset about something. Like there's always something that's going on here that's making you really upset or really proud, So I was feeling very, very down and very despondent. And she's like, she got so upset. She's like, I am so sick of hearing this all the time. Our soldiers are doing such an amazing job, and we have such amazing people in this country. And she just like, I don't remember everything that she said, but I was like, oh my God, we're being so unappreciative if we just are saying everything is bad, nothing is good. Like, I don't know how to hold, like, I don't know how it actually is respectful towards the hostages and their families, or towards, people who have lost, loved ones and soldiers. And I don't know how it's respectful, but like, there is so much good also. Like, Chen, my daughter, is like in a wonderful kindergarten, and the ganenet is just so amazing. And like, we're dealing with a certain issue, and and like the other ganenet, I don't know what that's called in English. They're just so wonderful, and my work, like I do this amazing work. I work with amazing people. And, we live in this like wonderful building with, it's new and it works. And I have underground parking, and I have these beautiful kids. Like, I don't know, we live right by the sea, and like we go to, we celebrated my mother-in-law's birthday at the sea, like on the beach the other night at this like restaurant. Like, how can we say that there's no good? How can we say that? Like, we do have to, have major gratitude for what is good. I just don't know how it fits together. Do you know?
What did you order to eat when you celebrated your mother-in-law's birthday?
These restaurants, Avram, I really hope that you come to Israel soon. And there's so many places that you're going to have to go. You have to come for a very long time because we all have to take you to all the places we want to take you. So you have to come with me to one of these restaurants. It's like
I will, sweetheart. I will.
You're actually sitting like on low down chairs on the sand, and the prices are just ridiculous. Like they're such chutzpah. Like every time you're just like, what? Anyways, so like we got like French fries and hummus, and like we each got a drink, and it came out to like over 200 shekels, even though we hadn't eaten anything.
How much is 200 shekels in Canadian or American dollars?
Oh, I think American right now is divided by 4.
Okay, like $50. What makes Lior your best friend? Why is she your best friend?
Orly?
Sorry, Orly. Why is she your best friend?
Okay, so I mean, first of all, there's the historical part. So I graduated high school, and then I did national service, and I worked with autistic children, and it was great. And I started feeling my religious questions coming up, and so I decided that before I go to study to get a degree in university, that I would go learn Torah. And I chose to go to this certain yeshiva for women in Jerusalem. And it didn't help me religiously. But that's where I met Orly. And we were chavrutas. And we had like so much fun together that we had to have we came up with this like method for not just schmoozing the whole time. We had like a little note on the table with a pen, and anytime we came up with a topic that we wanted to talk about that didn't have to do with Talmud or whatever, we wrote it down. Yeah. And then afterwards we were very religious about going through that list and making sure to talk about all the topics that we wanted to discuss.
Very cool. I like that.
Yeah.
A chavruta, by the way, is an intellectual soulmate. And you can learn with them if you're in yeshiva, an institute of learning. If you're there all the time, you learn with them every day. I have a chavruta on Monday night, Motel, and we've been learning together on Monday nights for about 8 years, and it's phenomenal.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's great. I call them intellectual soulmates. But go on, I want to hear more about you and her.
All right, and I also really wanted to talk about Torah learning, but
yeah, we're going to get there. I have questions for you. We will get there.
Goodness. And then, so I started going, I was in very much in had serious inner turmoil. I was, I was living one way, but not believing it and not feeling good about it. Some of it I didn't believe in, and some of it just was really not good for me, on a personal level. And while I was starting to go in the direction of becoming less religious, she became more religious. Which is what she wanted. And despite that, or whatever, she was there for me throughout all those years where I was really just I was, I don't know, I was depressed, but I mean, I don't know if I was depressed from the beginning, but I just was really confused, and I felt very, very stuck, because I believed that, if you want to live a meaningful life, you have to be religious, Orthodox. And that, if I couldn't even think about not being religious, because then what would I would lead an empty life. And so I was, I went through these years where I wasn't willing to become non-religious, but I didn't connect to, to the different, to a lot of the different ideas. And she was there for me throughout the whole thing. She knew what was going on with me way, way, way more than anybody else, way more. And she was there for me through all of it. And then when I left Israel, she was broken. She was broken. I mean, she didn't know if it was forever, and and I was leaving, and she still supported me. She just has supported me through everything, and we've supported each other. We were both dating, trying to find someone, a partner, and we were always there for each other. So that's that's just the history. But I mean, why are we actually best friends? I mean, it's hard to explain, it's she's, she's always been this person that I can, say things to her in a certain way about what's going on with me that I say, that I'll like make it a little bit smoother when I tell it to someone else, like she gets like the more raw version of like what's going on. And I want her input on things, and, so it's, yeah. And it's mutual. Thankfully.
At this point in your life, yes, thankfully, at this point in your life, do you have a group of friends and she's your best friend, or is she your friend? And the reason I ask you that is because I've met so many people at my stage of life, many of whom do not have either friends, unfortunately, or do not have a big group of friends.
No, it's almost never been a group, or it's never been a group. It's always just been like individual friends that I've had throughout my life. Like even from when I was a kid, I think mommy would know better than me, but I always remember having like one or two friends, and then another one or two friends, and like keeping in touch with them often, going forward. So yeah, like individual friends.
Yeah, and it's fascinating when you really dig down and you drill down, as my friend Karen says, about what friendship is. My son asked me about 2-3 years ago. He was trying to define family, and I did my very best to explain to him what I thought family is or was at that point, vis-a-vis friendship. And it's a very interesting distinction. But let me ask you, what would you say is the fundamental difference, let's say, if there is, between your relationship with your best friend and your relationship with your sisters? Not in a pejorative sense, just what would be similarities, what would be differences?
I don't know. I mean, I think like, I don't know if it's like this, like if my siblings also have this, but like Orly is the person that like, not that she knows more about what's going on with me.
Yeah.
But she's the one that I like, that I feel more comfortable saying it in the, the most open way. So, and I don't necessarily like, I sometimes do that with my siblings, but like not as much.
Is Lior like a sister?
Orly.
I'm sorry, because Lior's Orly sideways. Allow
And
me to
Lior is
make
also
my
my new
mistake.
last name.
No, I'm very bad with names, and that's not good for a podcaster. When I was in Ryerson, I was taking journalism, and I had a professor who gave you an F if you spelt the name wrong. And shit, man, I should have learned from that. I'm so bad with names, But anyways, so is she like a sister, Orly?
Like I feel she's like a different kind of sister. First of all, she only has brothers. So I think like to her, I'm like a sister. And to me, like, I mean, she's like, this like chosen person in my life. It's like very different. I don't know. Like
Oh, good one.
she is like, she is like family, because, she's like, like I mean this in the most positive way. She's like a default in my life, So like in that, like she's like family. I don't know how to say like, if like she's like a sister or just like a different kind of family member, a close one, but yeah.
Right. I think your definition is a good one. I tried to explain to Noah that we're blood. That means there's an aspect of who we are biologically, which we share. The idea that you are my eldest sister's daughter, there's something which is almost like mystical about it that seems very important. We're a tribe, and there's no other tribe like ours in the world, and there's no other tribe like your neighbors in the world. We're all very distinct in that way. So we share something on a very, very deep biological and I would say spiritual level. It doesn't always work. And God knows there are many families who do not get along, and therefore very often those people rely on friendships. But what is a friend? I think a friend, Deena, and tell me if this resonates with you, is someone who has that shades of familyness, if you will. It's somebody whom you can trust and open up with, and you very often can't see your life without them. And within that, I think, is a familiarity that we can find within our family, because I know I have dear friends who are like my brothers. There's no question in my mind. They're like my brothers. But I want to get into a different area here. I've always been so impressed by how you look at life straight on, again, like your mom, and you deal with the questions that come your way. While it must be very scary for you to look at the religion that we were brought up on, and we were both brought up in a very orthodox environment, and to question the veracity for you, or maybe not even the truth of it, but whether it's applicable to your life and how you lived it. And you started to question religion at a very young age. It must have been a really scary time for you, was it not?
Yes, very scary. Very scary. It was scary, before I made the decision to leave Israel and become less religious. And it was like really, really scary. Once I actually made the choice, I was like, I just feel like basically, so we went to yeshiva together, like we were learning Torah, and that didn't help me. It didn't help me spiritually and, religiously. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to go for a second year. And I went for a second year, and it was really bad. And it just made me feel like, I don't know, claustrophobic and depressed because it wasn't helping me. I met with a I met with this rabbi, and I was like telling him how I feel, and it wasn't helpful. Like, anything that he said, it just wasn't helpful. I just always continued to have these questions that couldn't fall into place for me. And then after that, I was like, okay, trying to find the answers isn't helping. So now I'm going to move on with my life, but I'm going to stay religious, and I'm going to hope that mitoch lo lishma ba lishma, that like through just, practicing being religious without like thinking about it too much, that it'll fall into place for me, and I'll feel okay with the religious life. And that also didn't work. I finished my degree during that time at Hebrew University, and I just got progressively like more depressed, pretty much. And like a turning point for me was I was in therapy at the time. I mean, I was in therapy on and off throughout the years. Like, that's not unusual for me. And and I was going to this therapist, and one day she said to me that she wanted me to go to a psychiatrist to get a diagnosis for depression and, go on some type of medication. And I like freaked out. Now, I just want to say that years later, when I started having anxiety attacks and I felt like I needed medication, I was like, okay, just give me the medication. But here, that's not what I felt like, because when the anxiety, it was around like my feelings about death and losing a very close loved one. I felt like there was, there's only so much that you can do about like coming to terms with death. Fine, give me the meds. But like when she was telling me that I needed to take care of my depression, I was like, wait, but the reason that I'm feeling depressed is because I'm living a lifestyle that's not working for me. And maybe I can't believe that this could happen, but maybe I could change my lifestyle and be happier. Like maybe that's a possibility. It was hard for me to believe that was possible, and so then I left. So it was like way too hard for me to make these changes. Like at home, I was living at home. I was, living in Jerusalem. I didn't realize that there's like all kinds of people living in Jerusalem. It just felt very religious to me. And of course my family's religious. And I was like, I can't make these changes here. And I had this feeling that I wanted to go somewhere totally new. And I had this like I just ended up without thinking about it much. I mean, I probably was thinking about it, but like I ended up with this list of what I wanted in this new place. Can I tell you what those things were?
Yeah, tell us. Yes.
Because, I ended up in the one place that filled those criteria. So I wanted it to be in Canada so that I could work and not have to worry about visas or anything like that, and English speaking. I wanted a place with mild weather. I didn't even know there was a place in Canada with mild weather, like mild summers, mild winters. I mean, everywhere is snowy in the winter.
Yes, not Winnipeg, right? Yes.
Yes, not Winnipeg, not Ottawa, not Montreal. I want somewhere with mild weather. I wanted somewhere with a small Jewish community. I've never wanted to, move away from Jewish community. But I wanted to. I've always been in big Jewish communities in Toronto and in Jerusalem, and I really felt like I wanted to experience. I didn't know why. I just wanted to experience a small Jewish community. And at the time, I know it's like a little bit ironic, but it's not ironic because this is the story. It's like that I was going to a Parsha class by this rabbi, this very sweet rabbi. And I asked to speak to him one day after class, and I went up to him and I was like, I'm feeling. Oh, and I think I knew that he was from Vancouver, and I like went up to him. I was like, I feel like I need to get away, and I was thinking about Vancouver. What do you think? And he's like, oh, Vancouver's wonderful. He was the rabbi there for like a few years in the Sephardic community. He's like, oh, it's wonderful, and the community's great, and it's so nice there. Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. And I was like, okay, so maybe this is a good idea.
I love that.
So yeah. But leaving Israel was really hard because I didn't know for how long it would be for. I went to Toronto for a few months and I thought maybe I won't go to Vancouver. Maybe I should just stay in Toronto. And after a few months, I was like, no, this isn't working for me. Like I can't figure things out here either because too much family around and it's just too familiar. I just didn't feel like I still had what I needed. I got on the plane and I went to Vancouver. And I had already found somewhere to live, and then there was this rabbi who, he has this like place where people come for like Friday night dinners. And
it's Chabad, right? It's Lubavitch.
He's Lubavitch. He's not like officially part of like Lubavitch. His organization is not considered Lubavitch, but yes, they are very much Lubavitch. Yeah.
And how was that?
Rav Shmulek. Yeah, it was great. Look, I arrived, depressed. Like I remember like landing and going to this, I stayed with this woman for a couple of years. Like she was like rented out a room to me. I remember landing and going to her place and then needing to go straight to the ocean. I was like, I'm on the ocean. I mean, the ocean is different than the sea. Here we're on the sea. There is the ocean, right? And Pacific. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'd ever been next to the Pacific. And I immediately like got on a bus and went down to the beach. And I just remember standing by the water and feeling like so sad.
Yeah.
So sad and so scared. And just like hoping that this crazy move would actually be good for me. This crazy, crazy move. Like, why am I doing this to myself? I could have just stayed in my comfortable home, and like where I know people and I know how to get around and I know everything. Like it was scary.
And how did it go?
And then everything like turned out great and I had a great time. No, it was really good. No, it actually went really well. Like Rav Shmulek, helped me get my first job. I worked for like his father-in-law. It's so funny. I like haven't thought about this in forever. His father-in-law has or had like the main like kosher certification and of BC, like BCK.
Yeah.
So I was like working there for a while. I wasn't good at it at all. Like I was doing like office work. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
It's hard.
But then I found like different jobs, like working in the Jewish community, and I very quickly started to like not fully keep Shabbat. Also in Toronto a bit. I already started. Like I remember like taking the subway down to Center Island one Shabbat. I went to Center Island on Shabbat. It was so weird. Like, like I'm like used to Center Island being full of Jews because you on Sunday, right, with everyone else. But this was like really weird to be there with like all the goyim. So I started becoming less religious. Like basically, like I really wanted to become as non-religious as like I wanted to change as little as I had to be happy. So like I needed to not keep Shabbat. I found Shabbat like claustrophobic and like just really, really hard. And so I started to like not keep Shabbat, but like I was taking the bus to go to like a Friday night, to Shabbat meal. It's not like with other Jews, and I think we went out together to like a vegan restaurant there in Vancouver when you came to visit. So like that was new that I would eat in a place without a kosher certification. Changing a little bit how I dress. Like I'm not like exactly the most promiscuous person, but like, just, tank tops, whatever. And I did start getting happier. I started, I was also trying to work in different fields because I'd studied nutrition, but I didn't really want to practice as a dietitian. So I was like trying to figure out what I want to do. I don't know. I made friends and I started, I started branching out to people, and like to people who aren't Orthodox, and just opening up my world and seeing that there is life outside of the Orthodox world that's okay and happy. And
So let me ask you this. I found, and I went on a similar journey. In fact, I actually unrolled, if you will. I laid out the carpet for those
yes, you
within our
did.
family who became
Thank
irreligious.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Certain people won't be happy I'm saying that, but I think it's the truth. Um, but I remember fundamentally how free I felt and how the claustrophobia went away, of which you speak of, when I started to become irreligious. I just felt so much more alive and awake and part of the world, because I have this tremendous quest to understand the world in which I live and to taste foods. I remember the first time I had bacon, and
Really? How was that?
well, I was sick to my stomach. I was not nauseous, but then that nausea went away, and I quite enjoyed it. Um, and I did not keep Yom Kippur, and I was just so delighted that I didn't,
Wow.
because I really, really felt like I was choking. I felt so sad, as you were saying. So let me just ask you, I'll flip it over to you for a second. What was it, Dina, about moving away from Orthodox lifestyle and adherence to what we call halacha, Jewish law, or at least to some extent, that made you freer?
So there's like the technical aspect and the spiritual aspect. Of course, they're connected. So technically, for example, like I said, Shabbat was really hard for me. Like I had to stop doing the things that were bad for me, like literally bad for me. I know that a lot of Orthodox people that believe that the religious lifestyle, like anyone can live it. It's just a matter of figuring out the right whatever formula. I don't believe that. So Shabbat was really bad for me. I hated not being able to go out. I hated just having to be in one place every single week for 25 hours.
Mhm.
I hated that, having these like meal after meal, like meal after meal after meal. Like I always had like a stomach ache from Shabbat. And so that was like the main thing, was that I had to stop keeping Shabbat. By the way, I never stopped keeping Yom Kippur. I still I don't eat meat and milk together. Like I still keep kosher, but I keep it. I basically found a way to keep kosher that like works for me, where I am keeping kosher, but that it doesn't separate me from people. Like Ofer's family like doesn't really keep kosher, but first of all, like his family and his friends like always know to have like kosher meat for me.
Yes.
They know not to serve meat and milk because of me, but I will eat, in anybody's home, and I trust them. Like they know what I eat and don't eat, and I see what's on the table, and so I know what I can eat and not eat. So like I'm not separated. And on a spiritual level, it just never, like, once I started thinking about it, I don't know, like I couldn't fully believe, like that Torah, like that the Torah was passed down from God the way that we're taught. I don't know, like I'm pretty agnostic. Like I don't think that it makes sense that there is a God, and I don't think it makes sense that there isn't a God, and I feel like our God is, in Judaism, is a little bit like humanized, and the whole thing is like a little bit, I don't know. It's just not so convincing. On the other hand, like I mentioned earlier, that I'm very much in between. I'm like an in between type of person. I think I don't know. Like maybe it's an astrological thing, because like it's really like a personality thing, where I don't like to choose sides. And so if you start like dissing religion or religious people, then I'll get like really angry. But if you start if you start dissing like not being religious, I'll get like really angry, because like both of them make sense and don't make sense to me. So becoming less religious meant that I didn't have to be living according to all these rules that I'm not totally convinced are written in stone.
So it is a spiritual quest that is somewhat intellectual. Like you're really grappling with issues within Judaism and what seems to work for you and what doesn't, right? It's not just emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's very much a spiritual thing. And when I met Ofer, my husband, and he's not religious, but I loved how like how he's like, that he's more traditional than the other people around him. Like, you know, he doesn't eat meat and milk together. He does keep Yom Kippur. And like, you know, a million years ago, like when we first met, it's not a million years ago. We met like yesterday, practically.
Well, the listener figured that one out. Yes.
When I asked him if he believes in God, and he does, and I really liked that because it just made me feel calmer. Like I just like, I'm happy that he's like, you know, he's not religious. He's Jewish very much in his own way. He decided at some point to stop eating meat and milk together, and like why? Because he's like, you know, this is something that Jews do. They don't eat meat and milk. And I was like, that is so cool. And you know, and he does believe in God, but it's not like it's not like this like weight in his life every day. Like it's not a topic, you know. And I just appreciate that. It's like a breath of fresh air for me after it being just like such a major focus.
And I have to give you accolades, Dena, because you not only walk the walk, you not only talk, but you walk the walk. As an example, at your wedding a few years back, you were 8 months pregnant, and most of our family is religious, and they were all there. And I thought, my gosh, you know, my father, he passed away when he was 61. And honestly, Dena, I never sat down with my father and had a talk with him about my religiosity or lack thereof. We never had the talk. We were all very quiet about it. What did you say?
Neither did I with my dad.
No, but you did with your mom and you did with Bobby. And there you were at the wedding and you were showing like it was in front of you. I think
I was very much showing.
It was in front of you. Yeah, yes. that pregnancy. And I really was deeply impressed by not only you, but for your family, for embracing you for who you are, what you stand for. Not as though they're not upset about it. I know when you're religious, you want your kids to be religious. You just do. Yeah. I want my son to throw a baseball around because I love throwing a baseball around. An incomplete analogy.
Lahavdil,
like they say, we make a separation. But the fact of the matter is that's what we want for our kids because we believe in those values. Yeah. But your mom, your dad, your sisters, was Joseph there at the wedding?
Yeah,
he was. He came in. Yeah, he came in from Houston, right?
And Javi,
my sister Javi,
Auntie Javi. Oh my God, it was so emotional. Oh my gosh,
wedding. Yeah, beautiful wedding.
It was a beautiful wedding, and like it was a very special wedding. We did it in a different way. For Ofer, it's his second marriage, and for me, you know, and for both of us, it's a later marriage. And I was pregnant, and both of us hated the idea of having it in a hall. We hated the idea of spending a fortune. And then I was pregnant, so I was nauseous my entire nauseous and throwing up my entire pregnancy. I would go into check out these halls, and I was like, oh, this food is disgusting. Anyways, so we had a very unique wedding. It was very small. It was only like people closest to us. It was really beautiful. People still tell us like that it was the most beautiful wedding they've ever been to. Yeah. And it was so touching. I mean, it really was a culmination. Like I already have that feeling of, you know, like my dad, especially, of like he believes so strongly in, you know, in Yiddishkeit and like the Torah way, the Jewish way, you know, the Orthodox way, very strongly, like halacha and, you know, Jewish law. So for him, it's like it's harder. Like he doesn't like for us to like that we, you know, drive to them on Shabbat. But you know, this was like a culmination of, you know, them all just being there for me and just being purely happy for me. Like it was so beautiful. Here I am again. We should count how many times I cried in this interview.
8.
It was so beautiful. Like really, like everyone being there, you know, my Haredi sister, she was so happy for me and so supportive. And she was like my right-hand woman at the wedding, like helping me. And my parents just so happy for everyone just being so happy for me. And like, it was just an amazing thing. Like it was Orthodox wedding, you know, everyone has their red lines. I didn't cross. I was also very respectful. I made sure that it was done in a way that would be good for my parents. But it was really a very touching day.
It was beautiful to watch. Beautiful to watch. Yeah. Now, Dena, you said that about your work, you wrote me a wonderful bio about yourself. I have, I think, 8 pages here. And at the end, you said, Sorry, Uncle. Maybe I'm writing too much. You didn't. It was great. So
Oh, it took hours. Ofer's like, what are you writing? Are you going to ever pay attention to me ever again? I'm like, I need to finish my bio. So finally, someone's listening to me. Someone wants to hear my story.
right. That's exactly right. That's what we're all
I
about.
have someone reading it. I'm not just writing it for myself.
I have to tell you, Deena, that you're the first guest who really has put in so much to the pre-interview up until yesterday. Was it where you emailed me or text me? I don't know what to wear. I don't know if I should put on makeup.
And the background, what are you going to see in the camera? Yeah, my makeup and my,
I thought
my
it was one. I thought
skin.
it was terrific. It was terrific. So thank you for that. I was very honored that you spent so much time on preparing.
My
Really,
pleasure.
yeah.
My pleasure.
So you've done a lot of very cool things in life. I'm always fascinated by the work that you do, and I want you to tell me about the most recent work. And your colleague, or perhaps your boss, Boaz Kramer, a Paralympic silver medalist, who is in a wheelchair, runs a particular type of organization, which you find highly inspiring. Walk us through that.
Okay. Or cry you through it. Let's see how I do.
Cry your way through it. Yes.
Okay. So it's been 5 years already. I've been working at the Israel Parasport Center. It's in Ramat Gan in Israel. It's a 60-plus year old organization that we offer sport and rehabilitation programs for people with physical disabilities that are often accompanied by other disabilities. It started out. It was started after the polio pandemic. And I worked with people who had polio as kids, and they were athletes at the center, and now they work at the sports center, like people in their 70s and 80s. So first it was for kids with polio. There was very little service. There was nothing basically for kids who had survived polio and were now physically disabled. And it's evolved over the years. It's evolved over the years based on need, very much so, including today. So, until October 7th, we just had programs from age 3 till 120. Mm-hmm. We have a kindergarten for kids with actually more really severe physical disabilities. That's the one place where when I visit it at the sports center, it makes me cry from sadness instead of happiness. Instead of being touched, usually I'm crying because I'm touched. And then here I'm it's actually really hard for me to see these kids with very, very serious physical disabilities. Yeah. Although the other day I was talking to a mom whose daughter is now in the children's program. We have a children's program. So it's from age 6 to 21. And it's twice a week. And children with disabilities come and they participate in I don't know how many. It's 20 different types of activities that they can do, from archery and swimming to wheelchair basketball and wheelchair rugby and table tennis, soccer, just unbelievable. And I've actually just met this mom, and she was watching her daughter, her little girl, learn wheelchair basketball. And she was and she told me that her daughter was actually in the kindergarten by us also. So that was really cool. And she said to me, she's watching my daughter here, having fun with good kids. She just got that was one thing. She's these kids are all such nice kids. Yeah. That was just a sweet thing that she said. Yeah. And she goes, seeing her here, having fun, doing a sport lifts such a weight off my shoulders. And so I started crying. I actually did, because that's really, it's something that we tell people all the time, that, that the services that we offer aren't only for the people with disabilities, it's also for the family members. And very, very much so. That's, and she was actually saying what we tell people all the time. So we have programs. We have, a lot of it is recreational. And then we also have professional sports. Our teams, our wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby that play internationally. We have players, that go and play internationally. And then we also have our Paralympians. So we just had 5 athletes of ours. So basically there's the Israel Paralympic team. And I don't remember how many people it was, 20 or 30, I can't remember. 5 of them were from our sports center. So they're part of our community. That's where they train. And, that's where they grew up.
Do you know any of them?
Yeah, I know most of them.
What can you tell us
Some
about
more, some
one of them?
less. Yeah.
Can you tell us about one of them?
Um, I sort of feel like telling you about the one that actually didn't make it to the Olympics this time. She made it 2 times before, and we very much hope that she will again. Um, and so her name is Caroline Tabib. She is 28. She's been disabled she's disabled from birth. She's actually, I didn't know this, but at some point she sort of like walked with like a walker and like crutches or whatever, but she's in a wheelchair like full time. And she grew up at the center. Like she grew up, coming to the center all the time. And she wasn't even a sporty girl. Like she tells her story. I actually work with her. She tells her story how she was like a very girly girl, and somehow she ended up at the sports center and she tried all these different sports, and she really connected to table tennis. And she's really, really good at table tennis. She's like really, it's like serious stuff. She's like I don't know if it's still like number 6, but she's been number 6 in the world for a while.
Ping pong.
Ping pong, but that is offensive.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes, I don't know why.
Yes.
I just do whatever they tell me. Yeah, and she talks about how she started coming as a very little girl. She's so cute. Like these pictures of her as a little girl are like so cute. And now she's Bianhara beautiful instead of cute. And she like says how, growing up at the sports center, she's wheelchair bound. And she said that a person that comes to the sports center and is disabled, often a lot of these people, are in the regular school system, like in a regular class. And then, the sports center is like the only place where they're with other people with disabilities. And this is the place where she got hope that she can live a full life. This is, it's at the sports center where she saw, Boaz Kramer, our boss, growing up, being a Paralympian, getting a degree, getting married, having kids, also wheelchair bound. And, and like the older generation is like the example for the younger generation there, where, people see like for themselves that they can live full lives.
So you have, it seems, a very balanced life and a very purposeful and meaningful life. Is that accurate?
I mean, it's really hectic. It is balanced. I do feel like it's balanced, but I feel like when I'm at work, I wish I could be at work more, because like it's really hard for me to get all my work done. And then when I'm at home, I'm like really happy that I'm at home for the amount of time that I am, because I want to be with the kids. I want to make sure that things are running normally here. So like it's hard to balance, but I do feel like I have like the best of both worlds.
Would you say you're happy at this point?
Yes. I am happy and like crazy grateful. I'm like so grateful. Like I'm so grateful for, for my husband and my kids and my family and my friends and my work and where I live. And like, yes.
Did you ever think you'd get here?
Oh my God. Dating for a million years and just dating was like so terrible for me. I hated it. I literally hated it. It was so terrible. Like I would get my hopes up and then have them crashed over and over again. And just these like disappointment after disappointment, and just, I don't know. I mean, I always kept hoping. Like I still always had hope, it just kept on being crushed over and over again. And then finally, after so many years, I actually found somebody that I could build something with.
Did you see potential on your first date?
I saw potential in our first chat. Mm-hmm. I'm serious. Mm-hmm. Because like he immediately was just chatting with me, just asking me questions, making a little joke that actually made me laugh. So yeah. Our second date, I almost broke up with him.
Why?
He knows that.
Why?
After the second date, I was sitting there and I was like, no, I feel like there isn't like this. There's the rapport is a little bit off, the dynamics. And then like at the beginning of the meal, like you were sitting in a restaurant, and then he we each ordered something, and he's like, oh, do you want to taste what I got? And I said, oh, maybe a little later. And we kept talking and talking and talking. And then after and I'm like thinking like, no, I don't know. And then he goes, by the way, like I kept, like, you can still taste my food. I saved some for you. And like, I noticed that he had like saved, like he had saved a little bit of each thing. Like he was so thoughtful. And I was like, fine, I'll go out with him again. It's so thoughtful.
Deena, I know how loving and caring you are. You always make me feel like $1 million. You really do. You say such nice things to me. And but I also know you can be a tough chick. But so you must be really thankful that he really stayed in the game, right? No, really, he was very generous of spirit with you. You told him your weight when he proposed. You didn't want to taste his food right away. Some guys would get very upset with that. Like, call it a vote to him. Way to go.
He's been very patient with me. He really he's like seen me as, like a good person, like even at the time I was still on my, I was taking Cipralex, like a Cipralex, like medication for anxiety. Like I was taking it like daily. And this was like a few years after Bobby had passed away. And after that, I had to start taking medication because I was like, it just totally threw me.
Yes.
And Bobby, your mother, my grandmother. So I was still on Cipralex, and like that made him a little nervous, like, is she stable? But like, he really like would look at me for who I am, and he saw like day after day that I'm good, I'm reliable, I'm nice, like that he saw that I'm good and I'm good for him, and that he likes being with me. And so that's what was important for him, like to find somebody that he could feel safe with.
And I also think you have such a comfortability with yourself, and it's not as though you don't have struggles. We all do, but you seem so absolutely okay with who you are.
I'm glad I can fake it till I make it.
Do you like yourself? Do you love yourself?
I'm like pretty happy with myself, and other things I try to, come to terms with. But yeah, like I am more happy with myself than I have been in the past.
Yeah. And you should be, because you're a lovely human being with a beautiful spirit.
Thank you.
We've done some cool things together. I was thinking about, prior to this interview, when we were in BC, I was out there, I don't know, selling fur coats or something. I don't remember. And we got together, and I was very excited about it. And we remember we went up on a tram, and what is it called? Those
I know, gondola, but what's it actually called?
Like gondolas in the NHL. I
can't remember what it's called.
You go up on a wire and you're in this big glass thing, and we went up to what's the mountain in BC, in Vancouver?
Grouse, right? Grouse,
and I remember I started
Grouse
playing the harmonica.
You did,
yeah,
and talking to everyone, of course.
Right, and everybody was trying to find a corner, and there was no corner to be found.
There are no corners.
But I just remember that, and through this interview today and all the years of our relationship, just really how spirited you are. How family and love is so important to you, and your quest for spirituality. I think anyone who lives their life in a way that a life without meaning is just not worth living. You're quite the opposite. I really have to give you accolades and just give you a great big uncle hug.
Thank you.
For working so hard at life, and you should do so again, as we say in Jewish, till 120. Because you're doing a marvelous job. You really are. You're doing a beautiful job. And I'm just so happy that we're family and that we know each other,
Me too. It's such an honor.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
And I just want to say, like, just about, about my journey, like the fact that, I did come at the other end and realize that life can be meaningful. It was just an amazing thing. Like, what a relief.
Yeah, I want you to give that message out, because there's a lot of people, as we know, who are struggling so hard to find purpose and meaning in their lives. So just succinctly, Deena, someone's, watching you now, and they want to know, okay, honey, how did you do this? How can I do it? What's your message to them?
Well, I personally had, I was being pushed in a certain direction, and I finally, after many years, I listened to it. And even though I did intellectually, it didn't make sense to me, right? So the push was to become less religious. But intellectually, from what I had learned, that was going to lead to even less feeling less meaning in my life. So it didn't make sense to me, but it was what I was pushed to do. And I decided that I need to do it. I need to take that chance, take that leap, and, do what my soul was saying that I need to do. So I don't know, maybe other people also like have something inside of them that's saying, something that they need to change, hopefully for the good, and
Listen to your inner voice.
I mean, I think so. It's hard, and it's not, not clear how do you make that happen? And I still have like an inner voice, pushing me to do things or try things and whatever. It's not always possible, but however you can, that might be it. Maybe that's what worked for me, was to finally like listen to myself. And also with dating, I was, there were guys I dated longer, and I couldn't move forward. I couldn't. And it was with Ofer that, like I said, I still was like hesitant, I had to like still think and, decide that this is really what I want. But I also like went with what I felt that was good for me.
Deena, if you don't mind, I'm going to do a quick prayer for the hostages. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless, preserve, and protect the captives and missing soldiers of the citizens of Israel and the Israel Defense Forces. May God rescue them from captivity and speedily restore them in peace in the merit of the prayers of this holy congregation who pray for them. May the Holy One, blessed be God, show them mercy, increase their strength, remove their pain, and send them a recovery of body and spirit. May God return them to the bosom of their family swiftly and soon. And let us say amen. Do you know any of the hostages or hostages that came out?
We have like one of our members at the sports center, his son is being held hostage in Gaza. Yeah. So I see him around. He's really disabled. Like he's cognitively, I think he's okay, but it's like really hard to talk to him. But I see him, I smile and then feel bad for smiling. It's like, what do you even say? What do you even do around someone that's going through that? Yeah.
Well, I interviewed a couple of hostage members of the family of the hostages, and it was really difficult.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how you got through that. You must have had to get over it afterwards.
I took Xanax. That was helpful. But I felt that there's always a spirit hovering around my podcast. This one is a really bright one. It's full of colors and beautiful hues. And those were very, very dark. That energy was very dark. Because I know how much I love my son. And you can't help but superimpose that love over a family whose son or daughter or father or mother are in a tunnel, difficult to breathe, not too much food, and they're away from their loved ones. They're in a cage. And I just have such a difficult time. And it's also, Deena, when you're doing an interview like that, you have to be so careful with your words,
I'm sure.
You do. You have to be so careful because you can sound very foolish in assumptions that you make. But the thing I found about the family members were that they were very gracious, Deena.
I was going to say, I thought they were very kind. One of them I stopped in the middle because it was like it was too heavy for me.
Yeah.
But I felt like they were very kind, and they, they didn't, like you're saying that it was very heavy, but they weren't just like sitting there crying. They were still having like a nice conversation, and yeah.
They should be well. And ladies and gentlemen, what's that, Dean?
No, I said I don't know how they function, but I guess they don't. Yeah.
The strength of the Israeli. Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is sponsored by the Professional Center. It's Toronto's leading co-working space where excellence is the norm. From private sunlit offices to fully equipped meeting rooms, their spaces are designed to allow you to focus and to get work. At TPC, they combine high-end amenities with unparalleled services, ensuring your office experience meets the highest standards. Discover that TPC offers more sophistication, more privacy, and more opportunities to grow. So for more information, visit the Professional Center. Excuse me. And if you mention my name, Avrum, or Avrum, then you'll get 10% off private offices and meeting rooms, which is very cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Deena, and also,
Totally
yes,
worth trying it.
sponsorship and donations. Please consider doing so for the show. You're watching it, probably means you like it. There's so much great stuff coming up. I'm doing an interview in October with Ted Nolan, who's a former NHL hockey player and a coach of the Buffalo Sabres, Coach of the Year. He just wrote a book a couple years ago, and it's all about how he was really pushed out of the NHL, which is kind of like a white boys club, because he's native Canadian, he feels. And I can see that happening. The NHL is very, very white. So I'm looking forward to that. Tomorrow, I'm actually interviewing Seamus McGraw. And Seamus McGraw, which is an amazing name, isn't it? You love that name. And he speaks the way you think he would speak, right? He's Jewish. He converted, and he's an author, and he's written many books. And the one book that we're going to be talking about, is this backwards when I show this? Is it backwards?
Wait, let me see. Yeah.
Oh, it's backwards. It's called The Rise of the American Mass Shooter. It's a crazy book.
Wow.
I've been reading it. It's nuts about the psyches of these people, about theories about who they are and why they do what they do. And again, I talked about energy around reading books and doing interviews. It's a very, very difficult subject, but someone's got to do it. So I'm diving in. Deena, you did a beautiful job. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I loved having you.
It's
You
fun.
said you were really, really nervous at the beginning, running to the bathroom, taking your meds. I'm kidding. But how was it? Like, how was the evolution? Did you relax as we went?
Yeah, I guess so. I really do. I love schmoozing, and like it's so much fun to have the opportunity to schmooze with you. And so I had a great time.
I love schmoozing too. It's so much fun, isn't it?
I love it.
I know. I love it.
Afterwards, I'm like, whew, I need to take a break now, go lie on the couch and not talk to anyone, but I love it.
That's how I am as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. You can find this podcast on YouTube and all other major social media outlets like Spotify and Podbean, and the list goes on and on. The idea behind the show is to honor us, to honor humankind, and to do so through inspirational interviews as we had today. And what I would ask you simply is to listen to Deena very closely about the evolution, the development of her life, to see how she's done it to date, and to pick up little pieces, and to say, yeah, that sounds good. She did it, and I can do it too. We live in a beautiful world, granted with pockmarks, but it is beautiful, and we've accomplished so much in 6,000 years or 2 billion. See, that's where you get screwed up, isn't
Both.
it? Yeah, it's both.
Well,
Exactly, right.
It's both.
Right. Who's to know how long a day was when God created the world, right?
Well, that's the explanation. Right?
That's the explanation, right? So thank you very much for listening. We'll be back to you shortly. And as they say in Yiddish, and this is for Bubby, who you love so much, sei gesund.
Sei gesund.
What does that mean, sei gesund?
Be healthy and well.
Go in health, be healthy and well. Until we see you soon. Thank you so much.